Oh, okay. Hello, and welcome to Upload, the show where we take our collective consciousness and upload it to your mind. Today's episode has the one, the only Bobby Del Rio, the only white guy we care about, Todd Van Allen.
Tucker Carlson has a speech defect.
I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. And ladies and gentlemen, last but definitely not least, the irrepressible, the incomparable Lewis Taylor.
Hey, onigiri.
What is that? It looks like pot. What is that? Pot? No.
It's onigiri. It's
okay,
a
sure.
Japanese snack food.
Yeah.
By Japanese people.
Dude, it's legal now, man. Like, you don't have to call it stuff.
Oh.
But
someone read a book.
That's what makes this a vanity project, right there.
That's what makes it a vanity project.
Wow.
So, I know we've got actually a full topic list, and we didn't really go over it before, but I do want to talk about Ellen DeGeneres because here's the thing. Because my wife and I are, it's a thing between my wife and I now, where, because Ellen DeGeneres has been called out for having a toxic work environment, and it's a very hateful set. And the thing is, her brand is being really kind and nice. She sort of like took on the mantle from Oprah of being like super nice and giving stuff away and being kind to people and all that stuff. And, you know, my wife's like, no, she's obviously like a terrible person. And I'm like, no, she's a good person who runs a large organization, who has a lot of different jobs to do and has a very high level expectation of excellence. And, you know, I think that, you know, her work environment probably isn't more toxic than any work environment in film and in like on talk shows. Like David Letterman, come on, Johnny Carson, Jay Leno, are you kidding me?
Andrew Moody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying basically is, if you
Me?
work for me, get ready to be yelled at and called a dick. No, I'm joking.
Look,
You would not believe the talking to that we all get before we hit the air,
Oh my
folks.
God.
We're gonna be excellent.
It is.
You
horrible.
cut your hair, Bobby, and you, Lewis, stop doing drugs. Okay.
What?
I don't know what I mean.
No, but so this it's an interesting point, and I really do like your take on it, Moody, because this to me is cancel culture gone too far. Look, I don't know. Maybe Ellen DeGeneres is a bitch. You know, I really don't know. I don't know what she's doing. I don't know what's happening. But I do think if we're talking about the perception of the boss from the employee standpoint, every boss is going to be viewed as a toxic boss from somebody's perspective, maybe from multiple perspectives. And so now we're in this culture where anybody can just say, I'm a victim for whatever reason. There's 1,000 different reasons to be a victim. And if you make your case in the public sphere, everyone says, yeah. So where's the adjudication process in all this?
I'm actually going to probably, I have really short-term memory issues, but I think it might be one of the first times I'm agreeing with Bobby.
Wow.
What? I changed my position.
It's qualified.
It's
qualified. It's qualified. There is something to be said. Like, I've worked on set with a bunch of extremely entitled recent university grads who think that their degree and their sense of hard work entitles them to an entitled attitude. And they themselves create an incredibly toxic work environment, especially around, you know, this is your job, stop moaning about it. And I've talked to all kinds of older professionals who were like, I hate these people. They are so, but at the same time, and this is why it's qualified, I also came up in a system where it was an incredibly toxic, bad male behavior, where it was racist, it was sexist, it was like, hey, I have a dick and I'm gonna put it in your ass. What you gonna do?
I agree.
And it was like,
yeah.
What?
I agree. I think that honestly, the work
metaphor,
environment.
Bobby.
I was going to say, are they hiring?
First in line, please. First in line. You know.
Form an
Got-
orderly queue right here,
everything.
boys.
I was going to say that, you know, work environment on film and television has actually totally become less toxic over the past 30 years. Absolutely. Like, you know, and that's not to say the environments are perfect, but I'm telling you, like, I think that there's a mixture of, I think that there are two things at work here. Like, first off, I'm sure that there are people under her who are assholes and just have go on a power trip with people. And, you know, and I'm absolutely certain of that because that happens everywhere. And I'm absolutely certain that, you know, first off, Ellen DeGeneres is going to treat you awesome if you're Ryan Gosling. You know, she's going to be the nicest person in the world to you. If you are the woman who makes her coffee and you get the order wrong and she says, come on, I've told you 3 times, she's not, you know, she's not going to be awesome to you. And I think too, there's a time pressure in film and television. There's high stakes because a lot of things have to coalesce at the same time. And if something doesn't go right, millions of dollars can be lost. And even on my little short film shoots, there are times when something, especially if there's no money, there are times when something has to get done really quickly and you have to get a bunch of people to do something really fast. And it's not that I'm being a dick, but I have to be very precise with my communication. And I was working with one cinematographer and I'd given her a half hour to set up the shot, but there was one problem. I just needed one thing not in the shot because it's hard to explain. I needed it to be framed in a different way. I gave her a half hour to figure it out and she still didn't figure it out. And I had like 30 seconds to get the shot. And I said to her, come quickly, come with me, turn the camera here and just put it like that. And she was like, what? Wait, but I have to. And I said, you know what? If you could just get that focus, get the light on that person, like within 30 seconds, and because we have to move on to the next shot. She did it, but then she freaked out on me. She didn't freak out, but she just said, you disrespected me. You disrespected me. You made me feel small. You made me feel whatever. And I said, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you feel that way. That was not my intent, but we had to get the shot done. And I don't think she'll ever work with me again. And if you asked her, she would say that was a toxic work environment, or that was a toxic moment of toxicity.
And this is my question. What is toxic? Who's toxic? Who decides what toxic, you know,
I think when you experience it, you know what it is.
No,
we now go to our expert in the field, Britney Spears.
Look,
Nice.
For example.
Wow,
okay,
you're old.
I'm now doing this thing. I've been watching like left-wing media my whole life, and now I'm purposely watching Fox News. And sometimes I vomit a little bit in my mouth, and sometimes I'm like, oh, there's interesting points, right? I'm watching right-wing and left-wing. I'm like purposely getting different perspectives. It's fascinating to me how like Kamala Harris, for example, how the left is like Kamala Harris is the greatest thing in the history of civilization, and the right-wing media is like she's the worst thing that ever happened. And I'm like, how can the same person be characterized so differently? And then you realize that this is just, we're in a society of perceptions, as we always have been, but anything can be viewed as toxic by somebody's perspective.
Look,
right?
That's always been the case. It's always been toxic, or whatever is based on perspective and self-interest. And that has never changed. We are just now seeing it vehemently expressed. There is no middle ground, no opinion that anyone wants to take seriously. I mean, I have no interest in going back to this staid kind of media culture that came from a specific point of view. I actually welcome the plethora of opinions out there. Don't necessarily want to listen to them. But, and this is a point I want, like, I have actually created toxic work environments that, I shouldn't say created, I have added to toxic work environments.
Well,
by
stone
being a
soup of
toxic asshole.
toxicity.
Yeah, I mean, there are times when, you know, I came into this industry with, I will admit, a sort of naive, kind of wishy-washy liberalism. And I left it just bitter, angry, and having to get out, or I would have ended up broken. So, and I created an environment of those underneath me. I was basically the second AD on set. I created an environment where people were just like, oh my God.
But also too, that's kind of what I mean, I thought that's the job of the second AD was to be the dick. And because somebody has to, because like on a film set, there's just this inertia, there's this entropy that happens where, and it's nobody's fault necessarily, but if you're organizing a large number of people, things just slow down after a while. And
See,
there's somebody has to step up and say, dude, okay, get that light over there. Dude.
I totally agree with you on one level, but totally disagree on another. It's because I have worked with some really great first ADs that like the guy who came on board as my co-director, works as an AD and a director, and he is the calmest individual I have ever seen on set. Yeah. He diffuses the situation. We sit around talking about shit a lot. And that's me, but that takes a very, very special person with a broad life experience. It's not your normal, average, everyday person.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about. That's the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
Totally. If I could provide perspective as being the only comedian amongst us, and I would like to give it from this perspective.
I don't know why that hurt me. Like, I know I'm not a comedian, but I'm like offended by that.
I'm sorry. I guess I missed you all working out your new shit in the open mics.
There you go.
Oh,
okay.
I didn't realize.
Get it.
Were you at the Fox and the fucking Fiddle getting thrown getting
here he goes.
at you? Because someone didn't misinterpret your joke?
High five. Virtual high five.
Testify. Virtual high five.
God damn it. You'll notice I didn't say actor. Look at my IMDb page if you want to see what the number 1 looks like.
I got a little hot on the collar.
Right.
I got the vapors. It was so
He's
hot.
been holding back for a while.
Let's breathe. Let's breathe.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what we need. More angry white men on the scene.
Yeah.
Beautiful. As a comedian, when I heard this, because to the beginning of this issue when we're talking about it here is that she has the perception of being this dancing, fun, gregarious, kind of very sensitive person that's able to talk, but at her heart of hearts she is a comedian. And so when I first read this thing of like, oh, she was creating a toxic work environment, my first reaction was, oh yeah, because it's probably gonna happen. It is probably because, let's put it this way, Andrew, like I totally get, and I'm pointing to you over here because that's where I see you on my screen. Hi. I get you getting hot under the collar because you have got to go from shot to shot on a film shoot because you're creating a film. You're going to different locations. You've got different timelines of light that you're going to have, and people have to be on set. Like, you're there, you're paid to wait, so you're ready to go because it's a project. On a daily basis, she sits on a couch and talks to another celebrity in front of a never-ending rotation of soccer moms. Okay, that seems easier to me. So there's going to be something other in the scene, like whether it's the segment producer that is holding her up, whether it's like the people on the day that are not coordinating the audience properly or whatever. My friend Derek Forgy, he works at the Social. So he's an audience coordinator there. So he is constantly seeing a churn of audience that he's got to get up he tells stories of the workplace, and it has nothing to do with anything on set. Those workplaces can be good, and he never has a problem with the people on set. He's never been treated poorly. Everything kind of works as a well-oiled machine. So it really just becomes, who is the person truly, right? When you get enough power, when you get enough money, all it's going to do is amplify the person you are. Now, I'm not discounting anything that these people have said in their allegations, but I would say that if we're looking at Ellen, if there is something that's going to be done, you look at the person and you go, what is their core like, and how is that amplified, right?
You know what? When you were first talking about comedians, I was laughing, and that's because comedians remind me very much of rock drummers. It takes a very specific personality that is possibly not very functional on a social level.
We are broken people. Like, there's not, this is something you'll never hear a comedian say, well, I feel well-rounded.
I agree. And I also want to make sure that the point is understood that I honestly think that there should not be toxic environments on the set. I think that I think everybody has to work towards, creating work environments where people are respected. And that if there are conflicts, because of course there are going to be conflicts, that there's a reasonable expectation of resolution, and that even if you disagree with someone, you're respectful. So I honestly believe, and that's the kind of environment that I try to create, but I honestly believe that human beings have a tendency to just, tend towards toxicity. Yeah, I know. But and you need people.
The devil.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you can't get out alive, Bobby. You're not. Gonna get out
Wow,
alive.
Rocky Marciano face.
Yeah. But there is a certain level of toxicity.
Can I say though that,
sure.
that one of the things that comes up for me constantly is that we are trying to transition from a norm, and that's been informed by a business ethic that's predicated on the idea of the law of the jungle. And until we get this notion of the law of the jungle out of our culture, toxicity is going to be built in.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? I mean, it's not just toxicity in the film world and the TV world. There's also toxicity at the White House.
There we go.
If you want to talk Ellen DeGeneres being toxic, come on.
Yeah.
Why? What's going on?
Well, there's a little guy there who's running the place. I don't know if you've heard of him. I think his name is Donald Trump, I think.
Oh, Latino guy.
Yeah. It's a great guy.
Yeah.
And he's accused, apparently, Canadians of smuggling U.S. goods. He's blocked, aluminum, from being, traded to America. And also, this is my favorite thing, the American election is going to really depend a lot on the mail because, of social distancing, and because of the pandemic. It's going to be important for people to send their ballot in through the mail. Well, guess what? He has just put a Trump supporter in charge of the U.S. Postal Service.
Are those two separate issues? Can we maybe separate them?
How do you mean?
Well, if it's a spot on Trump being an asshole, I'm fine with it. But separating his trade deals with the election might be.
I agree. Those are 2 points.
Look, I think that there's a common thread, and it's Donald Trump is a fucking idiot, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is what we're talking about. It doesn't matter. He's just doing random things. He's putting out perceived fires everywhere. He's exerting perceived influence anywhere he thinks can help him. I think it's about Donald Trump, and you're right. Like, they're two different subjects, but at the same time, there's a commonality, and it's him. Right. The guy's unhinged. He's mentally unhinged. And I think that you can't understand his actions through the lens of logic, right? Like, I think you have to view him through personality, because it's just this sort of authoritative, narcissistic, it's like constant exhibitions of power. Like, I think that's how he views himself. He's almost like a supervillain.
Yeah, but where it's not that I disagree with what you're saying, but looking at the broader picture, we all exhibit traits from our life experience, right? Like how we find success in life is largely based in our environment. And when you look at Donald Trump, raised by his father, who might have been a Ku Klux Klan member.
Not might.
Yeah, okay. I was trying to be nice to white people. So you look at his legacy of just ensuring that Black people weren't in any of his buildings. You look at the toxicity of his life, of being raised by that kind of father, who taught him at a very young age that you crush opposition, that lying and cheating is just part of the game. These are the strategies and tactics you have to use. And he was damn successful with them. So his whole life pointed in this direction. And I think for the first time, it's on a personal level. I'm not talking about how people feel about him outside, but on a personal level, it is not working for him.
Mhm.
and he's descending because he's never been stupid. He's limited, incredibly limited in his intelligence, as we all are, but the man is not stupid. He's just, it's not working for him and he's out of touch.
I'm gonna count. Like, okay, yes, I think there are things that he directively does. I don't think he's stupid from a how does this make me better? Like that is the only prism that he sees light coming through is how does this impact me? It has nothing to do with the country around him, which is why he is constantly like, oh, maybe hydrochloroquine is something. It isn't. Oh, maybe we'll build a wall. You aren't. Like it's all these stupid goddamn things of like, no, to pick apart sort of these two things. So he lands his tariff against Canadian aluminum, saying that Canadians are sneaking stuff over the border. By the way, when I was a kid, we called that Christmas shopping in Watertown. That's what that was. And my favorite thing is that Trudeau, once again, love him or hate him, goes, okay, we'll do this dance again, and just, tariffed him back. And it's like, okay, we got this, don't worry. And he's going to do the same thing he did the first time there were tariffs before the NAFTA 2.0, which is he will target the very specific businesses that are being, that be drawn here. Okay, I hope you like your swing states of Ohio being fucking gutted, because that's what's going to happen again. They'll get angry and it'll calm down. So that's the cool thing. The Postmaster General stuff. The Louis DeJoy is the guy that you're thinking of, who is the Postmaster General. He has given hundreds of thousands of dollars this year to the Republican Party and Donald Trump personally for the campaigns. He also has, among his other vestments, shares in XPO and UPS. Now, I don't know if you know who those people are. They are direct competition to the fucking post office. So... and in a Trump speech today, he said the reason the only way that the Postal Service could actually handle the votes is if I give them this money, and he's not giving them the money. So he has literally said on camera, "I am taking the election."
Yeah, I just think it's wasted. I think it's wasted breath to analyze his policy decisions because he changes them every week. Right? They're doing new things all the time. It's an election. They're ramping up with the election. They're going to change their position based on their polling every single week. So I just think that they're in damage control mode. They actually, and you guys called it, so I'll give you credit there, that the gap is sort of narrowing between Biden and Trump right now, which I find very disconcerting. But I'm not shocked by it because Biden's not really doing anything. And what I will say about Trump, even though I do think he's the devil, is that he wants to win. And when you want to win and you're willing to do and say anything to win, like there's tremendous momentum that you can gain from that.
I agree. I also think that Biden's playing the long game. I don't think Biden's not stupid either. And I think that there are he's been doing this a very long time, and there are certain things that are being set up, that come November, he's not going to be making the same mistakes that Hillary Clinton did.
I also think that with Biden, he has really intelligent people around him to advise him. And I think unlike Trump, he might actually listen to them. Mm-hmm. I don't particularly, I'm not a fan of Biden or Harris, but they have a lot broader intelligence than Trump does. And I think they recognize, especially with the Democrats being a big tent organization, a big tent political party, that they have to play a much cagier, much more intelligent game. Personally, I don't think it's going to be enough when you consider all of the issues the world's facing today. I don't think the Democrats are up for the game. But yeah, they're better than the Republicans.
The error in logic is that intellect matters. I think that an election is more tantamount to a street fight than to a debate. It's not about who's got the smarter idea, who's got the better idea. It's about who's willing to take the fucking Coke bottle and smash the other person over the head. It just seems that's what American politics is.
And also I would add that Donald Trump is also a part of the Republican mandate to dismantle certain aspects of American government. And Yeah, and like people are upset that he's putting a Trump supporter at the head of the United States Postal Service, but the United States Postal Service has been dismantled, or parts of it has been dismantled by Republicans for decades.
Mhm.
So, and the big reason why, because he said, I put this guy in charge because he's a businessman and the Postal Service is losing money, the blah, blah, blah. The reason why the U.S. Postal Service is in debt is because back in 2007, when Bush was president, they were making money. As a matter of fact, they were making a lot of money. They were actually in the black. And then the Republican Congress and Bush said, okay, we're changing your financial structure so that you have to put away pension money for all of your employees for the next 75 years. So 75 years in the future, you have to put away money for people who aren't even working there yet. And so they had to estimate how many people would be working at the U.S. Postal Service and then gutted their finances. And so it just became this Republican talking point of, oh, the U.S. Postal Service losing money again.
Mhm.
We got to blah, blah, blah. It's like the reason why they're losing money is because you gutted it.
Can I hear your Republican voice again?
Losing money. That's my Ross Perot.
That literally sounds like Obama had sex with Ross Perot.
Exactly. Losing money.
Here's the thing though. I get this is not the time to go, I don't feel good about Biden and Harris.
Yeah.
This is not the time to do that. Like, you literally are making a choice of, like, you open the fridge, your roommate opens the fridge and goes, do you want something to eat? And you go, what's in there? And I go, well, there's a chicken taco from Taco Bell that was here yesterday, or a plate of dog shit.
I don't
And
know.
at no point should you ever say, how fresh is that dog shit?
Well, what's really
That's where we are.
Yeah. What's really interesting about what's happening with the Democrats is a lot of the progressive organizations that supported Bernie and Warren this time around for vice president, they're coming out and saying, we are fully supporting Harris and Biden, and then we're going to hammer the shit out of you.
Right.
Right? Which I think is like, it's the only way you can go. We can't survive. As a Canadian, I don't feel that Canada can survive another term of Trump.
I agree. And
The world can't.
Yeah, exactly.
I will ask this, and I will ask this to the POC peeps on this show. That would be not me. There is a lot of baggage that the GOP is going to drag in with Kamala Harris about her background of being a police officer, about being a DA, and having done things in her past that, in the light of day, today are not cool. By the way, I'm a comedian with 12 years of audio out there on podcasts. I'm not running for office either, folks. So my question to you is, as people of color, how much of a pass does she get on her previous transgressions as being the first woman of color on a ticket?
Look, it's the same as it's always been. It depends on your point of view and self-interest. I'm not necessarily a fan. My kid can't stand either of them, Biden or Harris.
Right.
But I also recognize that politics is populated by political animals and climbers. I mean, you're not going to, she's a hardworking, hard-nosed, right? I'm going to get to the top kind of human being. And, right, it's...
Are we switching gears? Are we now going to talk?
I was just going to say that was a very great, you should give your own,
Segway Monster.
Segway Monster thing. That Segway Monster prize goes to Todd. Absolutely.
Yay.
Because, yeah, I do want to, talk about her. And what do you think about Kamala there, Bobby?
I'm ambivalent, as I am a lot these days, because I do think that having a woman of color is desperately needed for society. And I think that it sends a really important message, especially during a time of so much political unrest. We're kind of smack dab in the middle of a simultaneous race war and gender war. So she seems like a very logical appointment for that reason. And I don't think that's a small deal, right? Like, I think that you want to make that sort of political gesture as a precedent. At the same time, I think she could hurt Biden because she's got a very militant past. To be honest, like, if I'm a Republican voter, I'm feeling a bit better about if Biden wins because of Kamala Harris, because I don't think she's as progressive as maybe most Democrats would prefer. And it's funny because, and I'm curious to have both of your perspectives on this, Moody and Lou specifically, because Kamala Harris seems to be pretty despised in the Black community, which is funny because they put a woman of color, a Black woman, she's half Black and half Indian, right? They put her in this position, and yet she seems deeply unpopular in the African-American community.
I don't know if she's deeply unpopular. I haven't looked at those stats. I wouldn't be surprised, given that Black people can be as sexist as any other people out there. I can only speak to my issues. I have the same issue with her that I had with Obama, right? That as soon as you get the nod, who is your allegiance to? She's been a player with corporate Democrats and the corporate powers to be for a long time, right? It's the only way you're going to get the nod. As far as issues like Medicaid for all, or Medicare for all, issues around, they might do better as far as environmental issues are concerned, but they're not going to do a great job. I should mention one of my problems also with the Democrats is they will create legislation they know that the Senate will veto, right? Will never get past the Senate. So they will make all of this, useless legislation and posturing. And once they get in, they will sit on their hands. And that's my problem with a lot of what Obama was doing, and it's what I'm projecting will happen with Biden and Harris. Love the fact that she's a woman of color. Love that fact. Yeah.
But Obama, over the course, like even just to get the first pass of Obamacare through, was able to get both sides of the aisle in a bipartisan manner to actually push it through. So it can be done. The problem that he's got right now is and that Biden is going to run into, and Kamala Harris will as well. Let's assume that they make it through. It's Mitch McConnell. That's the bottleneck, right? And so until that particular problem goes away, like there's over 400 bills that have been passed in the House that have not made it through the Senate because of the stonewalling. Same thing goes for you see the pivots on, depending upon who's in power, how quickly those Supreme Court seats get filled up. And so I will say this about Kamala Harris. If you're going to pick a VP, try and pick one that made Kavanaugh cry. That's a good barometer.
I will say I love her toughness. It's like I'm just thinking ahead. Right, election talk, it gets tense. Trump starts attacking, and I can't wait to see her attack right back.
She's gonna bury him.
Yeah, and the thing is, they won't debate. It will just be Pence, and Pence is just gonna gosh and shucks his way all the way through the debate. And I needed some happiness in my life, so I did watch the Kavanaugh questioning by Kamala Harris again, and boy, oh boy, if that doesn't give you tingly feelings all over. It is just wonderful. And I cannot wait for that moment in October when they're doing their debate and Pence has to answer a question, and all you're going to get is that shark stare from Kamala Harris. Just really. And as soon as you see her take in that first draw of breath for her reply, oh, there is not enough popcorn in the world. There is not enough popcorn.
And I think Biden needed that. He needed a VP with strength. Like, when's the last time that the Democrats have had somebody with that fire? I love her fire. She scares the shit out of me, and I love it.
I have to say, though, against Pence, because all of this is like a boxing match. It's like boxing meets chess. right?
Yeah.
It's how Pence looks at, or how his advisors coach Pence on how to deal with Harris. And I think the primary drive of their, retraining Pence to deal with her will be make her look like a threatening Black woman, right, who's trying to emasculate white male virility.
I can't wait for it. I don't care if they want to
Yeah.
characterize her that way. I think it's actually true, and I think it's needed, right? And I think
No,
it's
but what
such
I'm
a
saying,
metaphor.
what I'm saying is there is a chance for those moderate Republicans, right? The only chance that Pence has is to convince those moderates that might have voted for Obama the first time around that she is a castrating harpy.
Yeah,
If
but
they-
she's the VP, and I mean, if you have a problem with people, sort of being uncouth on the political arena, you're not going to vote for fucking Trump anyway.
I also think. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say that I honestly think that she should not censor herself in any way. I think that Biden put her on the ticket because he wants her to do exactly what she's doing, and let the dice fall where they may. And I think that all she has to do is prove that if something happens to Biden, she can take over the country. And
And I absolutely agree with you. The only thing I'm saying, I'm looking at political strategies and how they might play out.
Oh God.
And that's going to be an interesting game.
If she doesn't say a word throughout this entire, race, they will paint her as being an angry Black woman who.
They already are.
Yeah, exactly.
This actually, the similarities to the Obama-Biden ticket are pretty close here, because you had Obama as sort of the first African-American president that you were ever going to see, and Biden was thrown on that ticket as like, he's a youngster, he's a radical, and he's just like turning to the progressive people, like, oh, I don't want to vote for the other guy, but I feel uncomfortable with a Black person. We got you. That's Biden just going, we got you. And now with Biden, now with Biden in that position of like, come on, white people, we got this, and then all the Black people are going, are you sure that we're gonna? And Kamala's like, come with me, brothers and sisters. And that's it, like, I just love sort of like the ability of both of those campaigns to cover so many bases and just go, we got this. We got this.
I think they're definitely going to characterize it.
Yeah, I just wanted to know where you got the stats about the Black community being vehemently against her. I'm not.
Well,
I'm out of the loop
and again, I'm not an expert in American politics. I have watched a lot of videos on Kamala Harris in the last 24 hours, but apparently she dropped out of, I guess they're called the primaries, because she didn't have Black support. Right? It was like more Black voters are into Biden. And even Elizabeth Warren, I think, had more support in the Black community than Kamala Harris.
I'll tell you something. That is the narrative that Kamala would want to be put out, because the real reason why she dropped out is because she wanted to be on the ticket, and she didn't want to stay in the race and do anything. Like, I swear to God, she was thinking.
But don't you think she would prefer to be the president instead of the vice president?
There was no chance for her to be president.
No. And also, too, like, I think, to be very honest with you, I think the Biden camp was like, hey, just so you know, I'm not saying you're going to be vice president, but I'm just saying, if you happen to pull out,
say, and this is the smallest sample size there is, okay? Because it's like literally one
Is it
person,
us?
Right. But I had a friend who's a Black woman living in the United States, and as soon as the Kamala Harris appointment was made, she literally wrote publicly on her Facebook, and she was like, well, I'm not sure about Kamala Harris, but I hopefully we can make this happen. Like, it's already seeds of doubt from the Black community were public.
There are a lot of Black people who are very frustrated with her in California, because when, she was a prosecutor there, when she could have done something to end or work against police violence, they saw her being as slow. They saw her as being accommodating to the police, especially around, around the stuff that happened with, arrests of Black people.
Right.
And
my friend was in LA, so that probably makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
all that California politics.
Absolutely.
There was
Black people in California are not
ruling.
killed. Sorry, what was that? What did you say, Lewis?
Oh, the three strikes rules. There's a whole bunch of stuff that she ended, and she flip-flopped a lot. Like I said, she's a power player. And she's in, we talked about this before, the police chief in Seattle and the position she was put in, right, with a largely white police force under her and a largely liberal population outside of that. How do you function as someone Black?
And that happened here. That happened here in Toronto. We had a Black police chief, and as a matter of fact, a Black police chief who worked really hard to try and reform the police, but there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
And that's one of the problems with the recent study that shows that there's a surprising amount of bias in Toronto against people of color per capita. Now, of course, there are more white people who are arrested by police who are, thank you, right? Did you see that? You see that, Bobby? That was a nice little segue.
Yeah, we're bored with it.
I didn't even know it was happening.
I know, right? It was so good. I had to make sure you knew. Of course, you know, like in Canada, across Canada, there are more white people incarcerated. There are more white people who have incidents with the police. But per capita, the study has shown Black people are more likely to be arrested, to be struck, and to be shot by the police. And I can tell you from personal experience that you can tell that at certain times there's an even eagerness to do that. And that's with a Black police chief. And I knew that was going to happen. It's not like when we got the Black police chief, I wasn't like, woohoo, never going to get profiled again. Woo, it's a new day.
See, I think, and this is going to be, I think, controversial, but also complex, right? Like, I think that that's three issues in one. Okay. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that we're talking about, police shootings versus the Black population. We're talking about aggressive arrests, and we're talking about the crime rate. And I think there's three separate issues. So even though I guess we're talking about Black people specifically, I think it's so hard to lump them all into one category.
Can we also say we're talking about Black people in Canada and specifically Toronto?
Yeah.
Right. So it's and
we have 1, 2, 3 issues in one.
Okay. Wow. How was
nice.
Magic?
That's good. But I think what happens, especially in the race politics world, because look, I mean, a lot of us on this show, and you know, even Todd, we've been talking about race politics every week for months, right?
Even me.
No, but I think it's different when you're a person of color. Let's be real.
Absolutely.
I mean, me, Moody, and Lou. I mean, we're 20, 30 years in of like,
I am the
not getting jobs based.
You're beige-ish. You're beige-ish.
No, I recognize that if this show is the Barack Obama Biden ticket, I am the Biden to make the white people feel a little bit okay.
But here's my point. Here's my point. Bear with me because it is an intelligent point, right? So I will say that you have been on this podcast with us, with three somewhat militant people of color. We've done this for a long time, and you're a good contributor, and we're talking about race politics every week for fucking months. And nobody does that. So my point is that a lot of people are looking at the headlines and they're going, "Oh, see, cops hate Black people. Get rid of them." It's like, I think it's like a quick snap judgment. Read the headline. Don't parse the nuance. But the fucking nuance is like a very big part of what we're talking about, because I don't think there's anyone in the world that believes that Black people are not treated unequally by the police. Okay. I think it's pretty obvious and common and well documented. I think there's debates about if they're being killed by the police at a higher rate, because I keep hearing that actually cops are afraid to shoot Black people because that's the number one thing that's going to end their job.
No,
the number one thing.
I can tell you, Bobby, from personal experience, they are not afraid. They are eager to, and that's been my personal experience.
I don't know, because there's that big study, right? And it was with Roland.
I don't care about a study. I care about personal experience.
But let's make the point.
I love it when people outside of the community tell you that your experience has no bearing.
Let's have the conversation.
I mean, I'm sure.
Let's have the conversation. Because
Bobby,
let's have the conversation.
I love you like cook food, man.
We are, Bobby. We're having the conversation.
Okay, but let me make my point.
Sure. I'll let you make the point. Sure.
Because we have a Black economist from Harvard, right? Roland Emery, right? Is that his name?
Yeah,
you got to make the point. He's Black.
Yeah.
He did a 15-year study, okay, and in that study, and I'm not Black, okay. I'm just saying he is Black, and he has a study over 15 years that say black people are not killed at a higher rate necessarily than white people. They are arrested more. There's more aggressive. They're treated worse, but actually surprisingly, and he said it was the most surprising result of his career. He was surprised that there's not necessarily evidence to suggest that black people are shot at a higher rate. Okay. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I'm saying it's a 15-year study.
Okay, Bobby, this is excellent. So the next time a police officer says, "Where are you going?" and puts their hand on their gun, I should say, "Oh, sir, there's a study that says you're less likely to shoot me." So I'm just going to walk.
Okay, can I say this though? His stats, and this is my problem with stats anyways, is based on a core premise that the evidence he's using for his stats are verifiably truthful. When we have seen cases throughout the last 20 years of the cops lying constantly about interactions with black folks, we have seen them planting guns, we have seen them planting tasers, we have seen all kinds of stories. My father in the 60s was a social worker, was telling me as a young black man, one, the police lie like crazy and they always win, never get caught. Right? So when you start talking about stats like they're facts, that's my main issue with you. It's how you somehow think that institutions that lie consistently in their reporting, those reports should actually be used and considered statistically valuable.
So I take issue with the fact that you think that I think stats mean truth, and I don't. I think it's part of a conversation.
No, I said
that we're
fact.
having.
I said fact.
I'm not saying it's a fact. I'm saying it's a report, right?
Oh, okay. I'm fine with that.
I can't. No one's gonna say that. Oh, this person said it, so it's fucking true, and he's black. Ha ha, he's black. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Now,
a lot of people are saying that.
I think there's gonna be people on the alt-right who can use that and twist it however they want. But the reality is, you can take any stat, and depending on your political affiliation, you can spin it however you want. Okay. I accept.
That's all I was arguing.
But here's what I'm saying too. There's a complexity to this stuff because and I'm sure that you can speak to this too. Not all black people share a fucking brain, but at the same time, not all white police officers share a brain. So
Absolutely.
This is the complexity of the situation, is that are there evil white racist cops? Yes. Are there black criminals? Yes. Are there innocent black people? Yes. And it's like, it doesn't matter what the stats are and the reports and the news. Hold on, let me make this point though, right? Let me make this point, is that you do not know, and this is the difficulty of being in this world, you do not know how the interaction is going to go with a police officer and a black citizen, because it depends on the individuals, right?
I
agree. I just really quickly want to point. I want to add, but I'll let you. I'm gonna let you finish. But I want to add to that, Bobby, that I've got some very close high school friends who are police officers, who are awesome people, and they're not racist. And I love hanging around with them whenever I go to Ottawa. And and my wife, as somebody who was a baker at her store, and he said he left baking and said, "I want to be a police officer," and he's the sweetest guy in the world. And so there are some amazing people who are, and I think they feel the most frustrated. They feel the most frustrated by these stats, where it's like, well, but it's like the majority of police officers are not racist cops hunting down black people, shooting them left, right, and center.
Okay, correct. But here's to Andrew's point.
He's gonna let you finish, too.
I forgive me. I just want to follow up on this one thread. I know the belligerence of the white man is omnipresent in society, and I'm so glad to contribute to it here.
Just go.
So what they're feeling is like the crux of that phrase that all police chiefs have been using for about the past 2-3 months, which is, we have a few bad apples. They never finish the sentence, which is spoils the bunch. Yeah. And it is that problem that we have right here. If you have a problem, if I went to McDonald's and I knew that 10 Big Macs somewhere in there would kill me, I would say we have a fucking McDonald's problem. So maybe we go and we clean out the fucking McDonald's. How about that?
Like, here's the problem. No. Hold on.
Lewis has got to speak. Let Lewis speak. Thank you.
Okay, my problem is not necessarily with the police. It's guys with guns. will always be my problem, because whatever you say about the police, it's a guy. I'm a guy. I came up with guys. That's the last human being on the planet I would trust with a gun is another guy, right? And where I think this argument can be expanded, I used to work with at-risk youth, including White Street Kids. And when I asked them about a decade or two ago about whatever the latest black shooting at the time, asked them about that, they were angry, and their anger was based on the fact that they think the reporting went towards white cop black youth abuse, and did not look at white youth abuse, that they were constantly being harassed and beaten by the cops for no reason. So that's something I think should be expanded just out of self-interest as a black male, looking at the broader picture of police violence, but also looking at what happens to men in circumstances like that, because circumstances like the circumstances the police find themselves in as far as an organization on the street is concerned, because you will find that it's very similar mentalities, that there are similar mentalities in gangs. You will find in the military, this is what guys do when they get in a group and someone gives them the authority to do crazy shit.
I agree.
And I agree with your point. I don't know why I'm agreeing with Lou so much on this podcast. It's very disconcerting, right? But that's actually my point.
It was the sex last night, baby.
My point is not that it's a myth that black people are targeted more by the police, right? Like it's like I'm firmly on board, like that is a true thing. But at the same time, there's a complexity to the conversation. And that 15-year study, was it Roland Emery? Is that his name? He's a professor of economics at Harvard. But apparently, and I was shocked. And look, I don't know if it's true. I didn't do the study, okay? But he's black, and he said it was the most surprising result of his career, and that there's actually more white people being shot by the police than black people every single year. Now,
it's Roland G. Fryer.
Roland Fryer, there you go. So apparently, look, I think black people are like 8-9% of the US population. White people are, 30, 50, something like this. So percentage wise, it's still black people being shot at a higher rate, but it's at a much lower rate than they're being sort of aggressively arrested. And I've watched, I swear to God, like 10, 15 interviews with cops in the last week where they're like, the last thing they want to do is to shoot somebody who's black for any reason, because their
career is over. You're not positing that's a bad thing, right? You're not positing that that's a bad thing?
I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm saying it adds complexity to the debate, right?
I agree. And Bobby, I'm glad you brought it up. And as a matter of fact, I would urge you to continue to look at those studies and bring up studies that challenge these opinions, because it's true. Like there was a recent video about a bicyclist who was, the police wanted him to stop, but he didn't. So the police bumped him. The bicyclist fell off his bike. The cops got out of the car. The bicyclist, terrified for his life, got into the police car, and then the police officers grabbed him and beat the shit out of him. And he was a white guy. Like, I assumed it was a story about a black guy about to get murdered, but no. So of course this stuff happens. And of course, because of the population of America with 300 whatever million people, there are going to be more incidents between the police and white people. Absolutely.
Here's my issue. I don't want to defend the way police treat black people. That is not at all what I'm arguing. We know. Right? But what I am arguing is that, quite frankly, it's about the media. I think that there's a media bias toward victimizing black people in our society, which is sort of bolstering some of these Black Lives Matter protests, which are badly needed, right? And yet sometimes are sort of turning into riots and criminality. There's a line. And this is how I would disagree.
This is how I would disagree, because I agree sometimes that the media can clamp onto something and then go too far with it, and all of a sudden the society is excited about something that's not that important. I agree. However, sometimes there are some incidents between the police and people of color that are so radically shocking that the media simply reports it, and we are, of course, horrified by it. I
Sure,
think
George Floyd is a perfect example of that.
yeah, exactly. It's not that every day that there are people who are being killed and trampled by the police. It's just that every now and again there's one incident that makes people go, "Oh my God, that just seems so unjust."
But do we
And
really
think-
believe the media is objective? We don't think that they're buying
There's
into
no
this stuff
such
to
there's
sell
no such
papers?
thing as there's no such thing as objective. There's never
Right.
been objective. It's a silly word.
They're
Um,
selling a story, and that story has, and I'm not saying it's even an untrue story, but it's definitely like fueling this anger. Like I saw that
No,
Toronto Star article, and
no.
I go, like,
No,
what do you get out of that? What do you get out of that? You just create more anger. You create more violence.
What happens, Bobby, is that people who have had a history going back generations, and that's just not Black people, that goes to any people that have had a history of what's considered in the community persecution, oppression, all the rest of it, whose traditional relationship with the police has been relatively violent and from a community point of view, oppressive, that you do anything can set off that anger. That anger has been festering for centuries.
Yeah.
So the idea that somehow you're creating a boiling pot, right, through your reportage. No, it was on a
agree.
simmer before.
I think that what the media does on occasion is they'll bring light to something that happened that is very true, and they don't actually have any opinion on it one way or the other, and it simply ignites something within the community. Like there was but here's the thing, all the studies that are done, like you can do a million studies about police or whatever, and Black people aren't that, harassed by the police or not. But I think you can talk about studies all you want, but then there's just the objective reality of Black people's experience. And there was one video that I saw on YouTube, and if I can find it, I'll give you guys the link, that made that manifest. It made it very clear.
But the media contributes to
Let
that.
him finish.
Wait, hold on a
Bobby.
second. Wait,
let
wait,
him
hold on.
finish. If
Wait,
we're going to let
wait,
you finish, let
this
people
is
finish.
And you let me finish too, Lewis.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
I'm
not
Black,
talking
damn
to
it. I'm not going to let you.
Wait, because it's actually an interesting point. And this is something that this is a video that has not been picked up by the media. This is just something I saw on YouTube. In the States, there are some states that have open carry laws. So what that means is you can carry a gun as long as it's out in the open, as long as people can see it. And you can carry any kind of gun. You can carry a rifle, you can carry a machine gun, whatever. So that these two YouTubers did a social experiment. I think they were crazy, but they did it. They had a white guy walk around with a machine gun, or was it a rifle, or like a.
It was a machine gun.
Okay.
I saw this. It was an
You
AR-15.
saw this? Yeah.
Yes.
So the white guy walks around with a machine gun, walking around. Police officer goes, "Hey there, just wanted to ask you, like, what are you up to?" And the guy said, "Oh, I'm just going to the store. Open carry. This is an open carry state." And the officer was like, "Okay, just wanted to know, whatever." And then a black guy, God bless him, walking down the street, open carry with a machine
AR-15.
gun. A police car comes out. A cop jumps out of his car. Boom, gun pointed at him. Get to the ground. 5 other police cars come around. Like he's surrounded by people. The black guy's lying on the ground, going, like, please. He didn't say anything. He was just like, "Sir, yes, sir, no problem." Lay down on the ground. They took the machine gun away from him, and they with the gun pointed out, and they said, "What are you doing? What's going on here?" And he's like, "It's an open carry state. I was just walking around." And they were like, "Okay, well, we're taking your machine gun. You can just go now." And so that's just
I
the
agree.
reality.
Here's my point, and don't misconstrue. I understand it's a loaded subject, very emotional, okay?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think this is a very important conversation, okay? Because I'm not arguing against that perception, okay? My point is more complex. I'm saying that the media is complicit in creating that perception, right?
Mhm.
For both the cops and the citizens. So
Okay.
I think that if you're continually getting images, right, that it's like Black people are criminals and white people need to, are killing them, or whatever the thing is, there's a constant narrative, then you start to believe these things. And so now you literally have 15-year-old like people of color talking about reparations for slavery that happened 100 years ago. You have people in Canada talking about reparations for American politics from a century ago. So where does that come from? Well, that comes from education, that comes from history, that comes from the perception of which they're largely getting from the media. So the media has a big hand in this. This is my point.
Bobby, okay, make your point and then I'll make a point.
Okay. My issue with what you're saying is that I'm not getting a sense that your argument contextualizes the history, the long-term, and I don't know if you know that history, maybe that's not why you're contextualizing. Okay, so I'm just benefit of the doubt. To suggest that recent occurrences by the media are responsible for an historical reality, multiple centuries in the building, right? And one, oppression, while it may make you tougher, does not make you a nicer person.
Tell you what, Bobby, here's the thing. Bobby, I hate to break this to you, but our own show participates in exactly what you're talking about with our segment, our weekly segment.
Oh dear.
Todd hates white people. You think the media is bad? Dude, one finger pointed at you, three fingers pointed at us. Okay.
I just want to say that you're perpetuating a media trope that engages us all in violence.
So it really depends upon to before we hop into that, there is one point I wanted to bring. Bobby's absolutely right. There is complete media bias on whichever side you're on. I mean, for every picture of people looting at protests, there's to flick the channel and there's Trump's unmarked National Secret Service guards throwing a line of moms into a van. So it's one of the things. One thing again, back to Andrew's point, that with that social experiment, my argument has always been, if you want to solve the gun problem in America, it is not less guns, it's more guns, and it's more NRA subscriptions in the hands of black people that will just make that go away. It's like, hey, we saw an uptick, a severe uptick, like millions of people. Okay, who's buying them? Black people. And that's
got to get rid of guns.
Yeah, we got to get rid of that.
One more point I wanted to add to that, though, and Bobby, this also, this could actually support your point. The media doesn't do in-depth investigation, most media outlets, of police agent provocateurs, right? Like, which the FBI was famous for in COINTELPRO, in setting up Black Panthers and setting up riots. And this has been around the world. This is an aspect of policing that's relatively unpublished or unexplored. So yeah, I can see that bias does not give us the total picture of what's going on in the streets today.
That's my only point, right? Now, with that said, I have enough Black friends who've been arrested just driving or harassed that I know it is a real thing. But for me, it's a question of, okay, but why? Like, that's what I'm interested in. Why does this keep happening? Why does this perception exist that, oh, if you're Black, you're probably more likely to do something bad, so I got to talk to them and make sure they don't do that bad thing. And I think that the media is complicit. That's my point.
Make that the first topic of our next show. But this show has to give. I would like to give the audience to our white member so that he can tell us exactly why he hates white people. Why?
Oh, cockazoid! That's our cockazoid.
Yeah. So in this week,
what they do this time?
I try to keep, and it's going to go back to my introduction blurb at the top of the show. This week, for lack of, I could find, I could say to that this week's segment of I really fucking hate white people. It could be the guy, the anti-masker that threw a tantrum in a grocery store and was carried out by his son. It could be that guy. It could be Doug Ford going, gosh, I wish I could save our kids, but what are you going to do? I'm going to go Tucker Carlson this week because he threw a hissy fit when someone tried to explain to him how to pronounce Kamala Harris's actual name. And he blew a gasket. And I just wanted to share what I thought was actually a really nice little pithy reply right there.
Oh.
Wow, fucker Carlson really loses it here. If we're going to start deliberately mispronouncing people's names, maybe don't have a name Tucker. That's easy bait. And his argument was that he doesn't need to show her respect because it is the media's job, in his line, in his words, was to hold these people to account, which is hard to do when Trump's balls are dangling in your mouth all day. So thank you, fucker Carlson, for giving me this week's I fucking hate white people. Thank you.
Wow.
But are his balls tasty? That's what I mean. Damn.
I like how this segment has evolved from I hate white people to I fucking hate white people.
Oh no, it's always been I fucking hate white people.
Yeah, no,
Always.
am I?
Andrew always cleans it up, but I feel I got to go back to my roots.
Yeah. Well done. What were you gonna say, Louis?
No, I was going to say something about I hate. No, no, I'm not going to do a segment called I hate black people. It's just not going to happen.
Hey, that's my
Just to
job.
make a larger point, I mean, this has been, I think, one of our more important podcasts, quite frankly. And look, I think that we're in a society where there are very real things happening to real people, but I think that we really need to understand why they're happening so that we can change them. And I'm very worried, quite frankly, as a society, because, I mean, you guys know that I've been on the side of fighting for people of color for fucking 20 years. That's not going to change. But at the same time, I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, what's the best way to do that? Like, what is the smartest way to do that? Because, man, this violence, man, it's like, I understand why it exists and I understand the anger, but it's like, fuck, if we just kill each other, where's the hope for this world? You know?
I think we should make that the first topic of the next podcast.
I'm watching Andrew, and he's got that patronizing old guy teacher look on his face. Oh yeah, stopping killing each other. Yeah, that would be so nice.
We literally just saw, and we're currently in real time seeing Andrew Moody's audition reel for Frasier. I'm listening.
I empathize with your great.
Right.
And so I just wanted to end the episode with my segment, just to give a shout out to Brent Carver, who passed away a little while ago. He was a great actor, and I got to hang around with him back in the 80s and the 90s when he was working here in Toronto on unidentified human remains and around that time. Sorry, and he's just a great guy and gonna be sorely missed. Sorely missed. Great actor.
It's sad to see someone of that talent go so young. But what has heartened me about it is just seeing the outpouring of positive and great stories about him. And we've hit a point in time where social media can become the best eulogy of all time. And when you have these personal records coming out, it's amazing. So not to besmirch that, if you really want another great eulogy, look for Bill Maher's forwarded eulogy of Donald Trump. It is something to see. It is not something that he would like retweeted. So by all means, do not, for the sake of Donald J. Trump, do not retweet the thing you find. I may have done it myself. Go to @HeyIt'sTVA for more details.
Yeah, can you link us with that shit?
Yeah.
Oh, shit balls. Yeah.
That'd be great. Anyway, that was our episode. Thanks a lot for watching us, and stay tuned for the next episode of Upload. See you guys next week.